So in July, one of your colleagues, I believe his name was Jim Scott, presented on the Lambda architecture. So it would be great for you to share with the audience how MapR is embracing the Lambda architecture, how you're applying it, and the value you're seeing from the Lambda architecture and its framework.
Wow, that's a really good question.
It is, it is.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard question to answer. I mean, you got to remember, MapR was ultimately a vendor of a product. So MapR doesn't use Lambda architecture. MapR builds really a platform that leverages the Apache community and things like that. Now, having said that, obviously our services folks do a lot of work with the Lambda architecture. And I'm trying to think of how I want to answer this. What I would say is we definitely see customers using that approach in terms of trying to do sort of, for people who aren't familiar with the idea, essentially you sort of have two different streams of work. You have sort of your real-time stream, then you have your kind of your batch stream that in some sense, I don't know, let's say cleans up what the real-time stream didn't do properly, or maybe does more analytics or something like that. And the thought process behind that is that in a real-time system, you can't necessarily do everything perfectly, so the thought process is you have another system that sort of makes up for that. Eventually, the two streams in some sense converge to the same point in time. So in that context, what I would say is that, yeah, some of our customers use that, but it's really, I'm trying to think how best to answer this. Because the usage that I talk about, our customers are actually doing real-time streaming with Spark. They're not really using the Lambda architecture in the way you're asking the question. So I don't know if I really have a good answer to that. I think I'm just going to say that MapR is a new platform, we support everything. Hey, wait. And we have customers that use the Lambda architecture, and we have consultants who can help with the Lambda architecture, but I'm not going to say it's the architecture for Hadoop or MapR. It's just another option. Right. I mean, the reality is in the Hadoop space, there are a lot of options. I think, I come from an enterprise software vendor years back, and I think people really struggle with that with Hadoop. It's one of the greatest things about Hadoop is there's so many choices, but it is also one of the hardest things to deal with is there are so many choices. And I don't know what the future holds, to be honest.
So, any of you, the panelists, have thoughts around the Lambda architecture and what you're seeing?
So, I mean, you can put this in history. I'm agreeing with the MapR guy. No, I mean, it's a design.
Write it down.
We have it on tape.
Yeah, it's a design pattern.
Yep.
And there's design patterns. And to build good stuff, you got to know your design patterns and apply the right ones.
So, are you seeing where customers are talking about the Lambda architecture? It's fairly new.
So
Are you?
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys do. We have built systems that had done Lambda before somebody called.
So why do you think Lambda came out then?
Because what's his name?
Because Nathan
Mars made a statement, and
big data exploding.
But this is not new. He did not invent the egg, right? The egg was there. He just said that's an egg, and because he's Nathan Mars, it's now an egg. But it's a pattern.
Yeah, we invited Nathan Mars to talk about the Lambda architecture because of so much hype around it, and unfortunately we couldn't get him here. But I think it would have been a good discussion.
I think one of the main problems with Nathan Mars is he worked at Twitter and he's got his money now. And I think that does,
Well, we'll share that.
I think we're hearing more about it now, right? Because now I have one product, right? They're on earbud, but they can sort of do the different parts of it, right? So it makes it a little easier in people's mind to grasp, all right, how could I actually do this? So I hear it a lot, but I'm not necessarily seeing a lot of people continuing on down that path.
And that's really what I wanted to get insight is, people are talking about it, but are they really applying it, right, in the community about big data?
So totally. So I mean, it's a former startup that I worked at, we used Lambda architecture. I called it Lambda architecture because Nathan Morris's blog just came out. And it was like, hey, so that's what it's named. So I mean, it's out there. It's a good way to do things for certain things. There was a recent blog from a guy from eBay talking about the Kappa architecture. And there's some more thought about different ways to do distributed architecture.
So we're going to move on to the next question because the next question, actually, Ted, you'll get a chance to talk because this is questions to you. Okay? So we really would like to get your thoughts around Spark SQL, and
I heard this before we started.
Okay, and so how does it compare to what you're currently using? So, for example, Impala for interactive SQL, because, you know, there's a lot of solutions out there, so I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. Please share with the audience.
So we had talked a little bit before this, so I don't think there's going to be too much surprise on the table. But, so I have an email, and I can show it to you if you want, where I pleaded with Cloudera to either take Tez or Spark like 4 months ago, right?
Oh, wow.
And we decided really, really hard to decide which one to take. And I love Impala, but here I am pleading, right, for one of these. And I'll tell you what. And eventually, we decided that Spark was a better fit for us. Or, you know, and I don't need to go into any reasons like that. But we selected Spark on Hive, and it's going to become a reality. And a lot of us are working together on that. And so, why would you need two, right? So we've done our internal numbers. And Java can only go so fast. Serialization in Java is a problem. We believe that there's a place for two engines, and we're just going to go with that. We're going to allow competition between the two to make them better, both of them. And I think that's, I don't know how else to say that.
No, I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, and in the end, I think we'll probably recommend, just like we recommend Hive today for batch, we'll recommend Spark on Hive for batch. And maybe even if Spark on Hive can't do it, we need to go back to MapR on Hive, or, you know, it depends. It's the right engine for the right tool. But in the end, C++ on memory, you know, memory is, it's going to be the fastest that you can go.
Anybody have some thoughts on that question?
Looking at me? No, I mean, so I think that Spark SQL is great. I think that Hive on Spark is great. I think competition is great. I think each of these things have their own use cases. The thing, actually, I'm not going to go into Spark SQL necessarily, but I think Hive on Spark is great because one of the problems with Spark is its maturity. Well, this is going to get it a whole heck of a lot mature, a whole heck of a lot faster, right? You're gonna pour the water in the boot and see what, you know, trickles out. So that's going to be fantastic. I think that's really good.
Great.
Yeah, I will make a comment. I essentially agree with Ted. I guess what I would add, though, is that at MapR, our philosophy is that there's a lot of SQL options out there, and our plan is to actually support all of them. In fact, there's actually more than two. We support Impala. We will support the Spark SQL. We'll, of course, support Hive. We're going to support Apache Drill, which is a very innovative SQL solution.
Does that work yet?
Yeah, it's actually running right now. I'm running on a laptop. And also Apache Test. So our plan is to actually support all of them and let the market decide which one is the best choice. Obviously, I work for MapR, so I probably think Drill is the best choice. But I'll let the community work that out, okay?
Okay. Dan?
And I think from a SQL perspective, right, I'm not going to bring up a specific product, but I think in this market, brute force gets you to a certain point, but then it takes intelligence and systems to get you past that. And that's really what we're trying to bring to the table, is that optimizer behind the scenes. And we actually made the optimizer a pluggable thing, right? So if we decide we want to plug it into a different engine on the front, then we can do that at a later point, right? We sort of put the intelligence there to really enhance that SQL processing capability.
Okay, great.